Time to talk Royals. A man who's plugged in better than most, none other than the great Russell Myers, who joins us so frequently from the UK. He's the Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror. Lovely to see you, mate.
Yeah, you too, Paul. Lovely to see you, mate.
Now, a couple of things. Firstly, before we get to Wills and Kate, Harry and Meghan, and all the rest of it, I was reading your opinion piece a couple of days ago about how King Charles was on the international stage, particularly, of course, his trip to France, and you commented about how he didn't shy away from things like climate change. Now, a year into the job that he has been prepared for his entire life, he has, generally speaking, not gone there. But was there signs that he was willing to go there a little in some of the speeches once he started to travel to places like France?
Well, definitely. I mean, you look at the sort of where we are at the moment. We've just had the anniversary of the Queen's passing, and, you know, Buckingham Palace spoke a lot about the transitional year and sort of getting all their ducks in a row, working out the mechanisms of Buckingham Palace, what it takes to be the monarch and so forth. And I think that Charles had a pretty slow and steady first year. Some people thought he would come in and be this revolutionary king. Well, it wasn't quite that, was it? I mean, he was pretty much slow to get off the mark, and now the new year is upon us, so to speak. What does it entail for the new king? Now, again, as you said, I was in France at the state visit, and I think it went pretty well for him. I mean, he gave two major speeches, one at a banquet at the Palace of Versailles, big lavish affair full of the great and the good. Mick Jagger was also there. I mean, he's playing up to the crowd somewhat in terms of talking about climate change and what have you. However, I thought very interestingly at the State Senate, in front of French politicians, like you said, he didn't shy away from the big issues, and they were climate change, opportunities for young people, and the real big question about on everybody's lips is about how the US and how Europe are going to deal with the issue of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And he didn't shy away from it. He was saying that, you know, we are better together. And I think that in a post-Brexit landscape, so to speak, that's pretty punchy from the king.
I've got to say, I can't help but notice on this side of the planet that one of the first places that he goes when he leaves the UK, and I understand the importance of the relationship with France, but he didn't go to a Commonwealth country. Why is there an organisational reticence from him going to Canada, coming to New Zealand, going to Australia? I know that there's a plan for this at some point in time, but at some point, in order to maintain those connections, because all of those countries, certainly Australia, will end up confronting sooner rather than later whether they want to continue the arrangements, yet there seemingly is no effort to reach out to those countries.
Well, listen, nobody's as surprised at this than you or I, and I've been really quite staggered at the fact of the lack of visiting of Commonwealth Realms. You talk about, you know, major realms like yourselves in Canada and New Zealand. I thought it was quite shocking. I thought he wanted to be straight out the traps, you know, maybe even before the coronation, getting out to certainly Australia and Canada. And it hasn't materialised. I mean, we were led to believe that is going to happen. Certainly Canada is being spoken about next spring, our spring, your winter. And I imagine we're going to be looking at your summer next year to come down under. However, that seems a long period of time to have passed before getting over to the places where they want to see him. I mean, certainly some people do. There will be a bit of fractiousness when he goes to these countries, I'm sure. However, why did he go to France, first of all? Well, obviously, he was supposed to go there in March. The riots in the country, President Macron had to give that rather embarrassing phone call to him to pretty much pull it at the last moment. I mean, really the 11th hour, because of the riots over the pension reforms in the country. He then went to Germany. That went off without a hitch, and now we've ended up in France. Now, listen, these are our two nearest neighbours, I suppose, in terms of distance and our relationship financially. Where is our place within Europe? Again, it's a very, very hot issue at the moment politically, post-Brexit. So I think sending him out there, being a statesman, getting him to speak on behalf of the country like he did, I mean, and surprising a lot of people in the way that he did speak, is a big win for the government, I would say. And I'm sure that they were delighted with the way that it went.